Okay, this is our first flipped classroom recording. I am going over your two outside readings from today: Compromise of the Century, The Great Compromise, and The Three-Fifths Compromise. I'll have the answers for you here. Be sure you jot them down. Again, some of this stuff is definitely going to be on your test, so be sure that you are taking a look at some of these things as you're studying for your test, which will be next week. Number one, the Great Compromise was a compromise between the New Jersey Plan and the Virginia Plan. Number two, the New Jersey Plan favored smaller states because, quite frankly, New Jersey was a state with not as much population. Therefore, New Jersey Plan favored small states. And the Virginia Plan is going to favor larger states because Virginia had a bigger population. Therefore, their plan was going to favor larger states. Number three, William Paterson proposes the New Jersey Plan. Number four, the New Jersey Plan called for a one-house national legislature, L-E-G-I-S-L-A-T-U-R-E. Number five, Edmund, E-D-M-U-N-D, Randolph, R-A-N-D-O-L-P-H. He proposes the Virginia Plan. Number six, the Virginia Plan wanted representation in the legislature to be based upon states' population. Again, Virginia was a big state, therefore they wanted the membership of Congress to be based on which state had the most population. 7, bicameral means that there are two houses. I apologize, there are two ofs in your sentence there. That was a typo on my part. Bicameral means that there are two houses of Congress, one that was based on equality, which means that each state had the same number of congressmen, and one was to be based on population. So states with a bigger population would have more representation in Congress than those with small populations. Number 8, this great compromise of the two plans is also known as the Connecticut Compromise. Number 9, Roger Sherman will play a large role in helping to come to this compromise. 10, the House of Representatives is based upon population, whereas the Senate is based on equality. So in the Senate, each state has the same number of representatives. In the instance of the Senate, each state has 2. So you have 50 senators times 2 for each state, gives you a total of 100 senators. So therefore, the House of Representatives is based on population. We have 435 members of the House. California is our biggest state. Therefore, it has more members of the House of Representatives than a smaller state like Montana, which has a very small population. Number 11, a group we've talked about many times this year. What group of colonial leaders did Roger Sherman support? It was the Sons of Liberty. Number 12, is Francis R. Carter pleased with the Great Compromise? The answer is yes. Please take a look now at the bottom part that says Three-Fifths Compromise, and we'll go over this part of the reading. The Three-Fifths Compromise was a compromise between the northern and southern states during the Constitutional Convention, or Philadelphia Convention of 1787. Number 2, there's a typo there as well. I apologize. It should not be John Wilson. It is James Wilson. And Roger Sherman are the two men that proposed this plan. Number 3, Southerners wanted to count all slaves as part of their population to get more of a say in the House of Representatives. The big issue with the Three-Fifths Compromise is people in the North didn't want slaves to count as part of the population. And their argument was, well, how can you count slaves as people when people in the South are treating them as slaves and giving them no inherent rights? And so this is the big debate that was had about the Three-Fifths Compromise. Number 4. Under the Three-Fifths Compromise, only 3 out of every 5 states would be counted toward a state's population. So you get that fraction, 3/5. See, we do some math class and social studies. Number 5, Benjamin Harrison of Virginia suggested that the United States should count half of all slaves for purposes of representation. Kind of weird I gave you that answer there. I wanted you to have 1/2, but kind of already provided that for you. 6. The three-fifths ration was proposed by a guy named James Madison. James Madison is a guy you need to know for your test. Madison will be our 4th president, but for the purposes of your test, what you'll need to know is Madison is the father of the Constitution because he will be our primary writer of the United States Constitution. 7. By counting slaves in the general population, this will give the South an advantage in political leverage. Because the South was able to count part of their slave population, they were able to have more members in the House of Representatives. Number 8. Which amendment rendered the Three-Fifths Compromise worthless? It is the 13th Amendment, because the 13th Amendment will outlaw slavery in the United States, and it will then count every single African American or former slave as part of the population. Number 9, why did this amendment render the compromise worthless? Again, as I just said, it ends slavery. If you take a look at the picture at the bottom, you kind of get a visual representation of what the Three-Fifths Compromise was all about. Essentially, 5 out of 5 white people would be counted as part of the population, but only 3 out of 5 African American slaves were counted as part of the population. And again, the reason that we need to know the three-fifths total is for figuring out representation in the House of Representatives, because again, that is based on population. I hope you enjoyed this first flipped classroom experience. This will not be the last time we'll be doing this. I'm going to do about 1 or 2 of these a week. My goal will be 2, but not all weeks will that be possible, so we'll get in as many as we can. If you have any questions about this, be sure that you're asking me in class, and have a good one.